Isle of Honor. You will all stand, please, for the posting of the colors.
I got him. You got a spider up there.
Oh. Thank you.
No problem. Unless you want to do directly.
Everybody, please be seated. Thank you for joining us on this fine Sunday morning or afternoon, whatever it may be. I'd like to welcome all the veterans that we have and all their families. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. I haven't done this before. So. Our first part of the ceremony will be
Speak up.
Can't hear you.
recognition of our deceased veterans.
Can't hear you.
I'm sorry. They did. They just did. Our first reader will be Joe Barrow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Barrow, Colonel, United States Army, retired. It is indeed my privilege to once again participate in this Isle of Honor tribute to our deceased veterans. It is most appropriate to begin by recognizing 3 veterans who received our nation's highest award for valor, the Medal of Honor. They are Gottfried Jensen, Spanish-American War; John K. Nebe, Navy, Civil War; Donald K. Ross, Navy. Buried here also are veterans from our loyal allies. The Royal Canadian Air Force, John F. McFarland, William J. Robertson; and from the Royal Canadian Army, Garnet W. Beale and Woodbury H. Beale. From the Royal British Navy, Stanley Goodyear. From the Royal British Army, John A. Lumsden. From the Belgian Army, Albert N.F. Dervais, Cyril A.M. Dervais, Franz J.P. Dervais, Omer Joseph M. Dervais, Prosper T.A. Dervais. Other distinguished Americans are from the Revolutionary War, George Austin, Hezekiah Davidson, Benjamin A. Edward. From the Mexican War, William D. Austin. From the Civil War, Matthew Bliss, Willard Carney, George Klein, William J. Cleviston, J. H. Deal, Barton A. McGuire, Anson McLean, A. W. Paul, Justinus Simon, Harry A. Tiedemann, Alfred N. Van Syke. And from our militias, the Iowa Militia, Gideon M. Davidson, Benjamin A. E. Davidson, William N. Davidson, Samuel S. Davidson. From the Ohio Militia, William Davidson. From the New York Militia, John Eno. The Naval Militia, John J. Sullivan. From the U.S. Army Cavalry, Dick Martin, William D. Vaughn. And from the Spanish-American War, John W. Paul. We have deceased veterans whose branch is unknown. They are Isaac Allison, Charles Berger, John Brandel, Harry Brandt, John L. Brooks, Billy Fairburn, Harold Hansen, Ole Hingham, James Mochba, Terrence John Osborne, Edward J. Slinning, Theodore Thompson. From the U.S. Marine Corps, Richard Lee Andresco, Alva E. Bard Jr., Van S. Bogardus, Gwendolyn Brown, Robert W. Burgess, Sharon A. Donahue, Rita Flugauer, Carl E. Frederick, James L. Gibson, John W. Hammond, Ralph E. Harrison, Mildred H. Hogue, Edward Kessler, Joseph M. Kuski, William C. Mann, Lawrence D. Newell, Henry H. Neiman, Robert H. Neiman, Timothy H. Ord, Mildred Penny Payne, Roy T. Piercy, Richard E. Provencal, David J. Thorne, and Myron J. Williams. I will be followed by Reverend Captain Brandt.
Hey, Charles, get up!
Following names are all veterans of the U.S. Army. Edward Adams, William Adams, James R. Adger, Louis Aguilar, John M. Alexanderson, Arnie W. Armour, Raymond Baker, Jack E. Barrios, Charles R. Beale, Robert L. Beale, John J. Becker III, Otto A. Bemp, Carl D. Berg, Eugene Berg, Leonard C. Berg, David C. Berry, Oscar Billings, Paul Binkley, Harry Bischoff, Bruce W. Bordeaux, James E. Brandt, Terry L. Brewer, Donald J. Broadsack, Ben J. Brones, Edwin C. Brunton, Frederick W. Brunton, Alfred E. T. Buckell, Bill R. Burke, George Callan, Arlington R. Campbell, Michael D. Campbell, Charles E. Carlisle, O. H. Christofferson, William G. Christofferson, Olaf H. Christofferson of the Medical Corps, Lauren Collin, Larry J. Cook, Thomas M. Crawford, Thomas R. Cromie, William A. Cromie, James Crooms, Otis Crooms, Rayford Crooms, Fred W. Curl, Lawrence R. Curl, Arthur S. Davidson, Don A. Davidson, Louis L. Davidson, Robert Bell Davidson, and Wesley G. Davidson, Roy G. Davis, Arthur S. Gervais, Orwin F. Dow, George H. Drager, Louis Drager, George O. Dunn, who was also in the Air Force, Alicely B. Dustin, Samuel E. Dustin, Marvin L. Gilliam Sr., John G. Elmer, Robert W. Irvin, Robert V. Estes, William D. Evans, J. A. Floberg, Ray N. Floberg, who was also in the Navy, Richard O. Floberg, Carmen P. Fiano, Richard Freilich, Charles S. Gibson, Leroy Glass, Latty Bill Gray, George B. Green, Robert H. Hager, Edwin C. G. Haynes, Ray P. Hannon, Norman E. Hammond, David J. Hayworth, Jim Hay, Arvo H. Hendrickson, Walter Hilliard, Jr., David B. Hutchins, Donald A. Inman, Warren B. Jessup, who also was in the Navy, William T. Jessup, Delbert G. Johnson, who was also in the Navy, Morris E. Johnson, Oscar William Johnson, Edward D. Jones, Ora A. Jones, Donald R. Jopp, Marcus Jopp, Arnold M. Jorgensen, Carlos A. Kiesler, Michael A. Kieran Sr., Harry Kame, Louis E. King, Ronald D. King, Howard G. Kingsbury, Richard Koger, T. Myron Knudsen, Hudson Ace Lackey, Dorothy T. Lawrence, Clifford A. LeMay, Philip A. Lemon, Harold Libby, George D. Lund, Robert D. McCain, Willard H. McKean, Harold O. McKinney, Brian D. McLeod, Richard D. Matthews. That concludes this part of the list. Thank you. I'll be followed by Joe Gervais, who is also the president of this wonderful place that we are gathered here today at the Vaughan Bay Cemetery.
Hoorah!
Okay, all right, good. Thank you for that kind introduction. Chaplain, Reverend Dick Brandt, Colonel, retired. His title gets longer every year. Welcome to Vaughan Bay Cemetery, the most decorated cemetery west of the Mississippi today. As a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, it's my privilege to read some U.S. Army names. We'll give it a go. Eric B. Meisner, Alan R. Dick Moss, Waldemar B. Movall, Thompson Myers, Carl H. Nelson, Dwayne A. Newhouser, Herman Neiman Sr., Herman Neiman Jr., William Nitz, Eldon Nutter, Ori Van Nutter, Timothy O'Malley, Richard W. Olson, Arthur Olson, Louis O. Olson, Walter E. Olson, Frederick O. Payne, Donald R. Palmer, Eugene S. Pascuzzi, Stanley S. Paul, Wesley O. Peterson, Stephen C. Penny Sr., Henry Pohl, Elmer C. Rygaines, Henry Hank Ramsdell, Henry G. Ramsey, Jack A. Ramsey, who was also in the Coast Guard, Albert A. Rickard, Julius J. Rickard, Paul L. Roeder, Kenneth A. Roger Sr., Edgar L. Rose, Roki Glenn Rose, Herman Rothenberg, John Harvey Rust, Clarence E. Schultz, John Richard Sisson, Don R. Smith,
Harold Smith, Harry T. Smith, Ronald A. Smith, Roy Harvey Smith, James A. Spearman, John D. Spearman, Frank Stempinski, Donald F. Stevenson, Larry B. Stewart, Keith L. Stiles, Everett F. Stinson, Dwayne D. Strittmatter, John Strittmatter, John R. Strittmatter, Stephen Strittmatter, Eleanor B. Stock, Michael E. Sukanek, Louis E. Sullivan, Arthur H. Sommerfeld, Jesse Tatchell, Roy R. Tatchell, Gilman F. Tank, George A. Taylor, Harry F. Thompson, Harvey Tidrick, George E. Teagues, Mac D. Toller Couch, Ronald Van Osdal, Harmon Van Slyke, Edward A. Vidovic, Arnold P. Vidal, Charles H. Wadhams, Ozzie Walsh, Noel T. West, Andrew Westron, Wilbur D. White, Irwin W. Whitfield, Wardy Whitfield, William H. Wooldridge, Richard H. Wooldridge, Reese Corbett Wood, Rod L. Wood, Ernest Wright, Bernard A. Young, Nicandro Zampini, Sylvan J. Zuper, and from our deceased veterans from the Civilian Conservation Corps, James H. Blundell Sr. From our deceased veterans from the U.S. Army Air Corps, Dylan B. Coburn, Robert G. Fields, George J. Floberg, Paul Froelich, Earl L. Graves, Lynn W. Hatfield, Eldon E. Cole, Claude M. Kidd, John A. Larson, William H. McKinley, Donald H. Michelson, Herman Hap Neiman, Stuart Powers, John Shoemaker, Rudolph V. Talek, Roy Van Antwerp, Chester Van Slyke Jr., Paul W. Wittenberger, and from our deceased veterans from the Army Nurse Corps, Ethel Thor Nelson and Mary Jane Teagues. And ends the reading of this group. And now I want to recommend have Chuck West from Pierce County 16, Fire District 16, come join us.
Anybody here?
Sing the Navy song.
The Navy.
No, my country.
Good.
I'm honored to read off the names of the U.S. Navy deceased who are recognized here. Raymond Adams, Ralph Ahrens, Ladine Allen, Norman Anderson, Rodney Warren Anderson, Orrin Barnes, Robert Barnes, John Barr, Carl H. Bennett, James H. Blundell, James R. Brooks, Fergus N. Brown, Ted Brown, Earl Plunger Campbell, James W. Capp, Ralph E. Chamberlain, George Chambers, William Mark Kuhn, Bard S. Coons, Delmar L. Kautz, H. E. Ken Cox, Robert O. Rod Davidson, Ray DeGouche, Henry A. DeWitty, John Douglas III, Richard DeCommon, Robert Ekert, John Erickson, Charles Fiano, Timon H. Fixie, Earl W. Fravel, Richard Gabrielson, Thomas H. Gaffney, James D. Gainey, James C. Gaynor, S. James Gilbertson, John Glennon, William K. Gauntz, Timothy L. Green, Dr. Dale Hadfield, Walter A. Holstrom Jr., Harold C. House, Arnold Hood, Alfred M. Jacoby, Forrest O. Jensen, George H. Jensen, Sonia L. Johnson, Leslie P. Jones, Roscoe Jones, Cedric Roy Jopp, Raymond Karlinski, Fern G. Kelly, Samuel R. Kennedy, Ralph Kingsbury, Earl F. Knapp, Wayne Beale Knight, Walter E. DeForce, Aaron L. Litowitz, Brian G. Lizzie, Chuck Merrick, James A. Martin, Thomas W. Mercer, George H. Mills, Thomas Murphy Cody, John J. Nelson, Charles R. Neiman, Jack D. Neiman, Maxwell H. Neiman, Roy L. Neiman, David L. Olson, Edmund V. Olson, Dwayne Swede Otten, Gregorio Perez, Richard L. Radnich, Gerald A. Ringley, John Ritchie, Everett S. Rogers, Kenneth A. Rogner, Earl W. Rupert, Henry Sacker, Seth W. Sperling, Harold Joe Steiner, David Q. Scripmatter, Fred Stroh, John J. Sullivan, Tyrus R. Swartz, Terrence V. Taylor, Joyce A. Thorne, Robert E. Thorne, David Till, Gerald Jerry Tyler, Theodore A. Van Tool, Louis B. Waddell, Timothy Waddell, Norman G. Wade, Zechariah Curtis West, Glenn M. Whitfield, John C. Whitfield, Charles E. Weiler, James H. Woodridge, Sr. The Reverend Wilbur C. Woodhams. Henry Zupnik. From the Navy Seabees, Jim Red Davis. Vernon F. Grosser. James R. Meany. David Rickard. From the Navy Nurse Corps, Nathalia Nat Knox. Judy N. Wilson. Peggy B. Schmidt. Thank you. Next up is Jean Christensen.
It's an honor and it's a privilege. U.S. Coast Guard, Harry Anker, Arthur Burke, David Dandy Davidson, Russell Fuller, Frank Fuson, William Claris, Margaret Kennedy, James R. Martin, Marvin R. Rickard, Walter R. Rickard, David Till, Matthew Waddell. Under the Merchant Marine, Melvin R. Gabrielson, Alvin Jacobs, Gerald Libby, Maurice Libby, Lloyd Tetchell, Harmon Van Syke. U.S. National Guard, William G. Woodhams. The U.S. Air Force, C.R. Casey Adams, Thomas F. Bebson, Douglas E. Blundell, also the Navy, Donald Blundell, Charles, better known as Chuck Britt, Earl S. Lutz, Donald Chambers, Robert Cordy, Andrew Delsing, Sr., J. Russell Gervais, Marvin P. Eklund, Frank S. Rubaugh, Sr., Austin R. Hill. The Air Force, Donald D. Olson, Gordon D. Reynolds and Marine Corps, Alice Suchanek, David Stevens, Harold Thompson, John Urim, Keith V. Warner, Bradley C. Wright. I would like to say in closing that it's an honor and a privilege to read the names of veterans and to have a Memorial Day such as we have here. Thank you all for coming. Next, a little bit of music over here.
We rise, running away from
Thank you, readers, for your outstanding job. If you guys haven't seen it, our memorial week for this year. Our special guest speaker today is Mr. Robert Manahan, who is the superintendent of the Pierce County School District, and he has been since 2016. He has also been the superintendent of the Lake Shellen School District, and he did that for 6 years, as well as served 3 years as the executive director for teaching and learning in the Lake Stevens School District. Everybody, welcome Mr. Robert Manahan.
Good afternoon. Hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Great. I'd like to appreciate and thank Mrs. Mills and the Vaughn Elementary Choir there. Let's give them a big round of applause. Well done. I'm going to keep my words somewhat brief today, but I do appreciate the honor and thank you for Frank for connecting me and Russell for the invitation. I do also, as was mentioned, find this to be an honor and a privilege, and every time I'm out on the Key in this community, I'm reminded of what you have that is so special here. And it is about community. It is about understanding legacy and the honor, the service that you all do for one another, and recognizing the service of those who have gone before you. So just a simple congratulations for your own selves for being part of this community. Thank you also to the members of our armed services, veterans, and most of all, families and friends of our fallen. And it is an honor to share this day with you. I've had the honor to speak at a few Memorial Days and Veteran Day assemblies and remembrances. And really, to be quite honest, I always feel kind of a bit awkward about it. I'm not a veteran. I'm sort of a tweener. My father, Robert E. Manahan, and my uncle, Richard W. Manahan, both served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. And my son, Eric Griswold, was in the Army Rangers after high school graduation from 1993 to 1998. So I was in between both of those. But what I remember most about my uncle and my dad was their character. The values they taught me about honor, courage, and selflessness, about integrity and appreciation of where we live and why we're able to live with the freedoms we hold so dear. The values that they passed on to me from their time in the armed services. And I must say, prior to our son Eric heading into the Army, we had some concerns about this rangy, wild 18-year-old boy. But the man that emerged from the Army is now a wonderful husband, a father, and a proud veteran who loves his country and passes on those values he received to his own children. So I was impacted by the legacy and watching my own son live out the values of being in the armed services. Another impact on me was when I was about 10 years old. I found a box in my mom's closet. I was kind of a snoopy kid. I wasn't sure what it was, but when I opened it, I knew it was really cool. It had a purple ribbon and a gold heart hanging from it with a picture of George Washington on it. Obviously a Purple Heart awarded to those wounded or killed while serving with the U.S. military. I brought it up to my mom, and she explained that it was given to her from her mother in memory of her cousin, Milton Clark, who died in World War II, March 29th, 1945, at 21 years of age. It was an incredibly special gift that she cherished and one that she felt was important for me to understand and the meaning of the medal and the sacrifices behind it, along with the unselfish and loyal patriotism of our men and women serving in our armed services. All of this has left an impression on me to this day, and it reminds me to continue to honor and remember all of our veterans who give of themselves in service of our country and the citizens of the United States of America. And as superintendent of the Peninsula School District, what I really want you to know is that our kids, K through 12, still love this country. They still appreciate the sacrifices and efforts of our armed service men and women, and they still have pride in living in the United States and being an American. Despite some hearing about the negative stories regarding our youth in America, there's still a sense of pride and appreciation that comes out when you sit down with our kids and listen to what they have to say. Knowing I was going to be speaking today, I spoke with a number of our students, and without exception, they all felt blessed to be living in America. And yes, by the way, we do say the Pledge of Allegiance every day in every classroom throughout every school in this district. Our students have a good understanding and appreciation for the freedoms they enjoy and recognize the advantages they have in the world and life because they live in America. While not stating it directly in these words, they indicated that while they could not always truly understand what it means to be a veteran themselves, they could not imagine the sacrifice, selflessness, love of country, and loyalty it takes to go to war and serve our country in the way our veterans have and do on a daily basis. I think the youth of this community in particular are clear about their understanding of how blessed they are to live in America and the sacrifices our men and women have made and continue to make for their freedom. A recent example of how our students demonstrate their appreciation for their sacrifices made by our servicemen and women is the efforts over the years from Vaughn Elementary, Gig Harbor High School, and Peninsula High School in their Honor Flight Service Project. And I know that Hugh was on one of those flights. Any other veterans here that made it to the Honor Flight Service? Awesome. Glad you're here. This was not just an isolated sort of DECA or leadership class kind of project. It was really a collective buy-in from the entire school. Veterans are invited for a welcome reception a few weeks before they depart for their flight back to Washington, D.C., in which the students spent considerable time fundraising to cover the entire VIP trip. The veterans are then sent off by the students at the airport and welcomed home again. Additionally, students write letters sharing their appreciation and gratitude. The students worked hard to build connections with them throughout the year, and many students and staff have recounted the impact this effort has had on themselves individually, as well as the school community. The youth, in this community at least, get it, and do truly honor the sacrifices made by our servicemen and women. We are in good hands in the future because our students understand and appreciate the past. So this weekend, tens of thousands of Americans will flock to monuments, cemeteries, parades to honor the dead and remember wars past, and thousands more will spend Monday off enjoying barbecues and picnics. But I hope we reflect and appreciate. I hope that we stop. I hope that we put down our electronics. I hope that we gather with family and friends and cherish the sacrifices made so that we can have days like this, that we can live in a country like this. I hope we pause like this gathering today to remember how much was given so we can enjoy this day and every day in freedom. In his declaration to set aside this day on May 5th, 1868, General Logan instructed there to be thoughts to cherish tenderly the memories of our heroic dead who made their breast a barricade between our country and its foes. A testament that greater love has no other than to lay down your life for your friends. We are grateful for them. We are grateful for the families of our fallen. God bless our fallen heroes and their families and all who serve, and God bless you. And thank you again for allowing me to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manahan. The next part of the service will be our missing men ceremony table.
Entering the area, you may have noticed a small table in the place of honor. This table is our way of symbolizing the fact that 82,547 members of our profession of arms are missing from our mix. 73,057 from World War II, 7,747 from Korea, 1,611 from Vietnam, 126 from the Cold War, and 6 from Iraq and other conflicts. They are commonly called POWs or MIAs. We call them brothers and sisters. They are unable to be with us this day, so we remember them. This table is set for one, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressors. Remember, the tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. Remember, the single red rose displayed in the vase reminds us of the families and loved ones of our comrades in arms who keep the faith and wait for their return. Remember, the red ribbon tied so prominently on the vase is reminiscent of the red ribbon worn upon the lapel and breast of thousands who bear the witness to their unyielding determination to demand a proper accounting of our missing. Remember, the candle is unlit, symbolizing the darkness and uncertainty which they face daily. Remember, the slice of lemon on the bread plate is to remind us of their bitter fate. Remember, there is salt upon the bread plate, symbolic of the family's tears as they wait. Remember, the glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. Remember, the chair is empty. They are not here. Remember, all of you who served with them and called them comrades, who depended upon their might and aid and relied upon them, for surely they have not forsaken you. Remember. Remember until the day they come home. Remember. Thank you.
Our next part will be our memorial service. Members of Key Peninsula veterans, we will now pay our respects to the departed. In so doing, we offer our solemn tribute to all whom, wherever they may rest. Can I please get everybody to stand for an opening prayer?
Heavenly Father, please bless our service today and all our service people, both here and those who have passed. In Jesus' name, amen.
On behalf of Key Peninsula veterans, we place this symbol of our remembrance. We place this symbol of purity. May each generation emulate the unselfish courage of all men and women who fought for freedom. In the memory of the heroic dead who have fallen in the defense of the United States of America, I place this tribute of our devotion in everlasting remembrance. We place this emblem of eternity. Its color bespeaks life everlasting. Those do we immobilize the drawn deeds of our soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen who gave their lives on land, sea, and in the air. Place this symbol of our nation. The flag of our country was theirs to defend. Its glorious colors shall wave over them in death as in life for everyone to behold. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this afternoon. If you guys want, we have refreshments up at our trailers, so please stay and enjoy our flags and enjoy some refreshments as well. Thank you.